Our first honoree, nonetheless, is Byron Pitts. For years, we've watched Byron on CBS Evening News and 60 Minutes. Recently, very recently, he joined ABC News as Chief National Correspondent. To see Byron on television, you would never know the childhood he endured. Bullying, illiteracy, and stuttering were the prologue of his journey to become one of America's most trusted television journalists and a great advocate for the stuttering community. His story, captured so eloquently in his own book, Step Out on Nothing, reminds us all of the profound interconnection between language competency and speech fluency. We are honored to present our first Converting Awareness into Action Award of the evening to Lyne Pitts. Awareness is really nothing without action. It requires a willingness to inspire others. For this reason, we present this award to Byron. It's symbolic of his dedication over many years to those who stutter. Our next honoree is Lyne Pitts. Lynn's journalism career is marked by her Emmy Award-winning work as executive producer. I bet you didn't know this. Emmy Award-winning producer for CBS The Early Show and CBS Evening News, as well as her work as writer and editor. When speaking of his lovely bride, Byron loves to tell people he married up. No doubt referring to Lynn's role as a supportive wife and loving mother of 5 children. They are clearly partners in life who bring out the best in each other and set an example for all of us here to follow. As we saw in the King's speech, a strong and supportive spouse can be an incredible asset to all who stutter. Lynn, we're honored to present you with our Converting Awareness into Action Award and to have you here with us tonight.
Well, I'm not the public speaker in the family, and Byron is so terribly disappointed that he's not here tonight. But as Jay mentioned, he was called at 6 o'clock this morning to head off to Cleveland, and he's the new kid on the block there, so he really felt compelled to go. And we'll be on Nightline tonight, I believe, if any of you get the opportunity to watch. He is, in his words, tremendously humbled to be honored by this organization, and it is truly an amazing organization. He wanted to be here to express that in person. He's grateful for the support that Jane and the team have given him and our family since meeting us in 2009 when his book was published. I first met Byron in 1997 when he came to CBS as a reporter, and I was executive producer of the CBS Evening News on weekends, the broadcast he was assigned to work for. What struck me immediately was his writing. He had a passion for beautiful storytelling. He had a love of words. He had a passion about the characters and the stories that he told. And it was always that compassion that really came through in his work. What I didn't know then, and really didn't discover for many years, was the struggles that he had endured as a child, struggling with illiteracy and stuttering. Words, both written and spoken, were very difficult for him. So surprising that they became so much a part of his life. Once he began to talk about the painful things that he had experienced in childhood, I really did begin to see the long-term impact that those difficulties had had on him. For example, I noticed how he would rehearse every single conversation he ever had, even if it was just with the children, or if it was with someone at work. He always would go over and over and over what he intended to say, what someone might say to him, what his response might be, the different directions the conversation might take, how he might react, especially if it was going to be a stressful conversation or a difficult conversation. I used to wonder why. Why doesn't he just go out and have the conversation and have a spontaneous response? I didn't know that 20 plus years after he'd really stopped stuttering, he was still uncomfortable having a spontaneous conversation. I'm a big talker. I'm really noisy in conversations. I love to have big discussions around the dinner table and argue and debate the issues of the day. That's part of my job and part of what I do for a living. It's also part of what he does for a living. But Byron doesn't have those kinds of conversations. He has strong opinions, he has strong feelings about things, but he's very quiet. And he doesn't really kind of mix it up. And it was always very frustrating to me because I didn't really understand why. I knew how smart he was. I knew how much he had to contribute. It's not that he doesn't have opinions, but the pain of saying the wrong thing, or the pain of saying it the wrong way, never really has faded away from his life. So his opinions have often gone unspoken. He plans and prepares what he intends to say, and that doesn't always work in the heat of the moment. I never knew how tough it was for him to be live on television. Imagine taking a career like broadcast journalism, of all the career choices. How painstaking his preparation had to be, and then the fear that something unexpected might go wrong, something technically might go wrong, his agony on occasions when things did go wrong, and how long and lingering the impact of one simple mistake on air could be in his life. I never knew any of those things, and I didn't realize how much the lifetime of struggle had affected him long term. And then I read his book. As he was writing the book and I was typing the book, I started to read about those struggles. And it was very, very painful for me to read his words. It was very, very difficult for me to realize what he had endured as a child. So as I read those stories from his childhood, I realized the shame, and I realized the humiliation, and I realized how much he struggled to keep so many of his problems a secret, and how that secrecy and hiding that shame had also affected him, and how he wouldn't speak so he wouldn't be laughed at. And it helped me understand so much about who he is today. And if he was here, I would tell him how proud I am of him, how extraordinary he is to have accomplished all that he has from such a very humble beginning. We are people of faith, and I often say, don't tell me God isn't good, because he took a boy who couldn't read and could barely speak, and he put him at the pinnacle of broadcast journalism. Every time a person with big public profile says, it's me, it's okay, the world's perspective shifts just a little bit. It's not okay to make fun. It's not okay to stare. The opportunity to know Byron's challenges has changed me in profound ways. It's opened my eyes to the stereotypes that still exist and realize how much work still needs to be done. It's also given me a new reason to celebrate those whom I know have struggled. I was at the Knicks game on Sunday, watching them play in the playoffs, and I saw Kenyon Martin out on the court shouting at his teammates. And I gave him an extra cheer because I know he stands tall, not only on the court, but off the court. And I watched Lazaro on American Idol every week, and I marveled at his courage and his beautiful voice. And every time I watch my husband live on television, I hold my breath. And then I remember that he'd already won the battle. Because he's had the strength to tell the world who he is, and he's not ashamed. And he's thankful every day for all the struggles he's endured, because he knows he's stronger for them. And he's grateful to all the people who cheered him along the way, and who cheered his accomplishments. We're both grateful to this organization for all it's doing to give others, especially young people, the encouragement, and for showing them the examples, like Byron, that they need to believe that life won't always be so tough, and there are bright days ahead of them. So thank you to Jane and everyone who's part of this wonderful organization. He said, my deepest apologies for not attending tonight's celebration of the good works all of you have committed your time and treasure. Unfortunately for me, tonight duty called, literally. I became a journalist to give voice to the voiceless. Many of you gathered tonight likewise know what it means to be voiceless. How blessed we are today to speak up for those on the road to learning, to speak boldly for themselves. As my late mother, Lyne Pitts, would say, doing God's work ain't supposed to be easy, but it's got to get done. Thank you for your continued support of the Stuttering Foundation. As I see it, each of you is a gift from God. That's fine.